Hey everyone, it's watercolour card number 4 and off we go. This is our last one and we're going to make this one fun. So we've got some robins that I've drawn there. Again, you can use Pixabay or pexels.com to find free references. The colour I'm using there is probably Daniel Smith Moonstone, but don't panic if you haven't got it. Please just use blue and a crimson and add some black out of your watercolour pack. I'm sure you can find some black somewhere. If you can't, just make sure you get it as dark as you can. This time I'm keeping the colour quite thick. Previously you saw an awful lot more water, so this is the sort of thing you can do if you make the colour a little bit richer and let it run onto a damp page. You can see there is still little runs and little valleys where the paper is buckling. That is not a problem. Just pop your background colour on as carefully as you can around the robins, watch the paint go and see what happens. Let's get right into this painting so you can get ready for Christmas. It's salt time again. Grab your table salt, any salt would do. Got that lovely damp background, sprinkle your salt on. Remember, it has to stay on there until it's completely dry. Don't be tempted to take it off too soon. As happened on previous videos, I've got my record and my pause button the wrong way round, so I do apologise. All I've done here is added some green in, which is just, you can see the side. I've just dabbed it in after the salt has dried. I'm now adding the first wash over the robins. This is raw sienna, so any pale warm yellow you have, like a yellow ochre or anything like that, will do the same job. So get the background of the robins on. These are just damp as well. You can see that the bodies of the robins are damp where I've washed them with water first and let it settle. Now we're putting a little bit of burnt umber in. This is a slightly darker brown, obviously with the water added to it. Doesn't look that much difference, but it will give you some depth to the birds as it dries. Whoa, what's this colour? Well, this is burnt sienna, one of my favourites. So we've got raw sienna, which is the base layer. We have a burnt umber, now we're putting burnt sienna on as well. So these are all very similar earth colours, but by putting more than one on, you get a much more interesting shape appearing on the birds, rather than them being just a flat brown, which can be quite boring to look at. So if you've got different browns and yellows in your palette, even if you don't know what they are, just try doing this. Put on the palest one first and then layering up your browns as you go. There's always something missing, and here it is, cadmium red, that beautiful glorious red, which of course you've got to have when you have robins in the picture. Now I'm still using this on damp paper, so there is going to be some bleeding into the other colours. Sometimes it won't be where I want it to be. So just watch, see what I do to manage it, and then try it yourself. There we go, we've got some eyes in. That's just a mixture of all the colours on there. You put your orangey colours with your blues and you make a nice dark. You put your reds with your greens, you make a nice dark. Look at your complementary colours on your colour wheel and put them together, make a nice dark. Right, now let's have a look at using some of that green that unfortunately I missed showing you. Again, apologies. What am I going to do with it today? I'm going to sponge even more on top of that soft area I painted earlier. See the salt marks there? I'm not happy with those. They're just strange. They don't quite work for me in the general picture. When something like that happens, use it to your advantage. And here I've decided that they're going to become part of some shrubbery, some scrub that the birds are living in maybe. That way the texture works rather than it's standing out against a soft background. So that's why I decided to get my sponge out and create a little bit more depth around those marks. Having done that, my robins seem to have disappeared a little bit. So I'm now mixing up a bluey violet, which you saw there. Again, just like before, it's not going to be too runny. And we want this. Why do we want this? Well, I've put the green on and the birds just look a little bit lost. So one of the things we've covered before on this channel is negative painting. So here I go with my small brush because that's a very small beak. I'm now going to work my way round the birds, adding in to cover up some of the marks there, like there's some white showing that I don't want. And if you watch, you'll see that I'm making the background stronger, which, there we go, which will make the birds pop out more than they do at the moment. So remember, negative painting when you're doing your own work is a great way of making things pop in your painting. It's time for splattering. This time I'm using a brush which will give you bigger drops than using a toothbrush. Do make sure you mask off anywhere else around your painting that you don't want to get covered in paint. Use your white watercolour, use your white gouache, or use white ink. Now you can see here that the background is still damp, so some of this is running into it, which I don't mind. I think it's a really nice soft snowflake effect. So I'm just going to let that background dry before I add any more to it after I finish this little bit here. Oh hello, here's the fun bit. Now I'm using Liquitex acrylic white ink, and look, I've masked off my bird faces because I don't want them to get obliterated with white blobs. I've just used some kitchen roll, use whatever you like. And all I'm doing is just popping my brush straight into that bottle of ink. Now again, you could use white watercolour, etc., whatever you've got handy. Ink is really good because ink will give you a real opaque finish, but it is not essential, so please don't go out and buy it specially. You can see that some of the blobs here are a lot bigger, gives you this real effect that the birds are sitting in a snowstorm. That's why I've covered up their faces, because one blob would obliterate the eye of my lovely little robins. So have a little play with your masking attempts and get wild with splattering with a brush. See what effects you can make. So here comes our last card. Haven't we done well? I hope you tried to follow along with some of them, and I really hope you tried to make your own card. Not following mine exactly, doing your own thing, that's the whole point. That's a fabulous card, and that will be going to members of my family, as will all of these. So that's our last card complete. We've done a fabulous job. If you want to find out how to make use of your paintings in cards, then pop back to videos 1 and 2, which explain this in more detail. I do hope you've enjoyed following along with this and that your paintings are fabulous. Enjoy the festive season. Happy painting. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see each other again in the new year. Bye for now.